Morning, sunshines. All right, so your prompt script is due today. Again, just bring that to me, or if you can somehow email it to me. I don't know how you can do that, but you can try. Or just send pictures of it, etc. But if you can bring it by or just drop it off, I've got a box right outside my office, and you just drop it off there. That's fine. But you need to get that to me sometime today or in the near future. If you have any questions, of course, again, there's 3 sections to it. There's the beginning, which is all the current work, like your phone numbers, your commercial schedules, your character analysis and character scene breakdowns, etc. Then there's the script part of it, which can be, again, tabbed with scene works and act divisions, that sort of thing. And then there's the 3rd section, which should be all the design work, like ground plans, like any kind of costume plot or light and sound cue plots, any kind of prop list that you've made. All that stuff goes towards the end. And that's the way the prompt script wants to be. Cool. All right, so today we're going to talk about a variety of ways that stage managers work. Again, once you get to the individual shows with these processes, the show calling is exactly the same. The rehearsal is the same. The calling of the shows is the same. The closing of the show is the same. All that sort of stuff, except that with these particular, we're going to talk about outdoor dramas. We're going to talk about summer stock. We're going to talk about festivals, and we're going to talk about competitions. And each of them has some unique opportunities and unique sort of lessons that you need to be prepared to learn, and expectations that you need to be prepared to have as you get out into the workforce, because these are the places where you're more likely. Community theaters, yes. College theater, yes, but these are the places that are hiring college graduates and their entry-level job positions, and so being aware of what you're signing up for can often lay any kind of surprise that what you're signing up for may be a little bit different. So to begin with, let's just talk about outdoor dramas. Outdoor dramas are a unique kind of theater. Usually it is a local community that has a great pride in its history and its heritage about how it was founded. A lot of them have to do with how the Indians either helped or stood in the way, or the transitions between the Indians owning the land and the Americans owning the land. Tecumseh, Horn on the West, Lost Colony, all those sort of things. There's a Texas show in the Panhandle of Texas, Paldora Canyon, that's about Texas and the Alamo and all that sort of stuff. They're unique because they're outdoors. They're unique because you have a lot of times horses on stage. A lot of times they are around a body of water. So you'll have Indians riding up in canoes and that sort of stuff. And they're, obviously there's the opportunities that outdoor dramas bring with weather and that sort of thing. Before I get into the specifics though, here's a little video about how the theaters in North Carolina work.
I'm Rob Fox. I am with the Institute of Outdoor Drama. We are a public service agency of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. We work with roughly 100 outdoor theaters across the country, and especially with 13 outdoor dramas in the state of North Carolina. North Carolina has more outdoor dramas than any other state in the country, and our primary focus in North Carolina with outdoor drama is what we refer to as the outdoor historical drama, which is truly what I would say is a North Carolina art form. It was an art form in theater that was born here in North Carolina. The production of The Lost Colony by Pulitzer Prize winner Paul Green opened in 1937. It was actually part of a celebration for the 350th anniversary of the birth of Virginia Dare, who was the firstborn of the English settlement here on this continent. That really took off. North Carolina soon had other outdoor dramas that came about in the 1950s, Unto These Hills in Cherokee, and Horn in the West in Boone, North Carolina. Most of these shows are very family-oriented and are very education-oriented. It's oftentimes shorts and T-shirts and sitting outside and having a picnic maybe beforehand. So these become very important shows for family members to share with other family members, for generations to share with younger generations. Many times, you know, now that we've had so many outdoor dramas in North Carolina that have existed 70, 50 years, grandparents can remember the first time they went to see The Lost Colony or Horn in the West, and now they have the opportunity to take their grandkids and share that experience. The other thing that's really so important about outdoor drama is the fact that it really is the training ground for the next generation of theater professionals. One thing that we do at the Institute of Outdoor Drama is we hold the annual outdoor drama auditions. And we bring in hundreds of college-age students from across the Southeast, and they audition for these companies. And this is just an important opportunity for these kids to get their first professional experience in the industry. There are several individuals, obviously, through the years that have come up through outdoor drama that have made their professional career in theater and onto film, possibly, and such. Two examples I think of that have come through The Lost Colony are obviously costume designer William Ivy Long, who is still with that organization and now has gone back and is their costume designer. And of course, many people are familiar with the fact that Andy Griffith also was a performer in his early days at The Lost Colony. We have an annual event we refer to as Stages of History. And this year, that event is May 15th in Boone, North Carolina. This is an event that sort of kicks off the outdoor drama season each year. What we do is we have a performance, and this year, the Daniel Boone Amphitheater, where Horn in the West is produced. We will bring together the outdoor drama companies of North Carolina. We have 8 companies coming to perform scenes from their productions, giving the audience member a potential opportunity to think about what they want to go see that summer. The first outdoor drama to open up this summer will be The Lost Colony in Manteo, but throughout the month of June we'll have numerous outdoor drama productions opening. And visit our website and go outside and see an outdoor drama.
Cool. Again, typical of most outdoor dramas. Again, the community is very involved. Sometimes it's equity actors, very seldom. Usually, though, they're professional actors in the sense you get paid. A lot of times, you'll be paid to perform during the evenings and then perform some sort of crew work like stage management or like building the sets or painting the sets or building the costumes or repairing the costumes. Some of the shows have been running for years and years and years. They just remount the actual show itself. A lot of times, because they know they have burgeoning young stars, they will allow for the companies to produce like a work of Shakespeare, a Romeo and Juliet or something like that they'll do during the day, or that they'll take to the local high schools, that sort of thing. So again, it can be extra credits for your resume as an acting credit in addition to those sort of things, or as a stage management credit. You can stage manage those things. There are, however, several things you should be aware of. First of all, they will typically house you in what I'm going to call cabins. You need to be prepared to take your linen. You need to be prepared to take any towels, any washcloths that you use, or that sort of thing. Obviously toothpaste, toothbrush, shaving equipment, all that sort of stuff. That goes without saying. But soap is very important. Toilet paper. These places tend not to be in what I would call rural areas. They tend to be at beaches and at lakes that are some distant from the public, let's say, because you don't want the noise and traffic of the day-to-day city life invading your outdoor drama. And so they tend to be on tops of mountains or in very interesting scenic places, which doesn't tend to be inside the city. So first of all, that's one of the big things you're going to come across, is that you need to be prepared to be in the wilderness, and you're going to be stuck there with your 75 other cohorts for a good 6, 8, 10, 12, 3 months, weeks. So that may be something you are excited by. It may be something you're not prepared to be outside the city for that long. But a lot of these places, you know what, they may by now have Wi-Fi connections, but they may not. You may be totally off the grid for a couple of months just doing your show. Again, there's going to be typically about 2-3 week rehearsal period prior to the opening. Weather being a factor, both rehearsals and performances, you will have a routine that they will establish as far as weather events. They've been through it all, so they have a sort of a plan for everything, eventuality, rain, lightning, thunder, hurricanes, probably not snow in the summer, but maybe, I don't know, some of these places are kind of out, like I said, a little northern. But they will have a routine that they will tell you about, and they will call shows. There will typically be, and the patrons are accustomed to this, probably more accustomed than you are to it, but generally the rule is if you can hear thunder, if lightning is in the area, you stop the show. Simply because lightning can kill people, and you've got these huge poles with lighting fixtures stuck up in the middle of the air, which make great lightning rods. And so that typically, before the rain will arrive in most instances, you'll hear the thunder, and that's when they will call the show. Now again, as stage manager, let's say you got 2 minutes to the end of the act or to the end of the play, and suddenly you hear thunder. Does that mean an immediate halt? Okay, we'll see. Some people are a lot more strict on it than others, but again, there's a company rule that will tell you those sort of things. Now, when you're dealing with outdoor drama, one of the things that's going to happen is that your audience has to arrive and park somewhere. Now, again, these are very rural places, and one of the reasons we're talking about these typical things is that you're not going to have to deal with this in a normal situation. But in a lot of these places, especially the stage management crew beforehand, or the deck crew, or the scene shift crew, or the costume staff, become parking assistants. You get flashlights, and you get little vests that have reflective tape on them, and you get to go out and collect $5 a piece or whatever the parking fee is, and then you guide people to the parking places. If you're lucky, the theater has gravel or some sort of stone work that is in the parking lot. If you're not, and they're parking on grass, did I mention it might rain? And sometimes cars that park in the same spot over and over again develop what I call ruts. Especially if it rains a lot, you may have a situation where you have a car that gets stuck. And again, did I mention you're in a rural area with nobody else around? Suddenly you will see that the theater itself owns some truck that looks a lot like Mater in Cars, that comes out of some shed somewhere in the back with a chain rope and a motor on it that will come, and you will be soaked from head to toe in mud as you help this poor person get their car unstuck from the mud, and hopefully it's just one. And so to avoid that as much as possible, a lot of times during the day, you will have get some crews together, and you will take shovels and rocks and go out and fill out these little holes and spread them out and spread the stones out and get the gravel all nice and neat and all that sort of stuff. It seems tedious, but then once the show's running, and from the time you wake up until around 6 o'clock, till after dinner, you got nothing to do during the day. And so maintaining the parking lot so that you don't have to pull out Mater to unstuck somebody and from the mud is a great use of your time during the day, trust me. Another thing you may do is that you may do groundskeeping, mowing the lawn, weed eating, jumping in the lake and pulling cattails, and all that sort of stuff can be done. If you have horses in shows, horses have emissions, and over time, those emissions can cause damage to people who might, let's say, step in it or somehow fall in it, even worse. And so you may need to take care of any horse emissions you may find around your stage or on your stage. Again, if it's on the stage, usually that happens at night. It's the ones that are in the field that you don't really have to deal with on a daily basis that it's nice to every once in a while just go out and clean out the field around the theater, because it can get kind of dense. So anyway, again, nothing you're going to experience in any other environment, which is why we're talking about it today. Yes. So groundskeeping, laundry is a big thing. Typically, I would say most places have 5 or 6 washing machines and dryers. They will cost you 50 cents to 75 cents per load. You are outside on the top of a hill or in a rural community, so do you really need to dry your clothes or just hang up a line and let the wind do it the old-fashioned way? The problem is, again, that I mentioned you got 75 members of the company, and typically Monday is your day off. Well, Monday is everybody's day off, and everybody stinks to high heaven, and everybody does their laundry that day. So having a routine or finding a place and time that you can do your laundry when you're not at rehearsal or not at work when everybody else is. If you ever get an afternoon call where you're free, the first thought isn't, I'll take a nap. Your first thought is, I'm gonna do some laundry because nobody else is at the laundry machines right now. And trust me, as nice as people try to be, if you are someone who has put your laundry in the machine and left it there, it will not be in the machine when you come back. It will be, if you're lucky, in a basket that may be around. More often than not, it's thrown on the floor and waiting for you to come and pick it up. Because again, did I mention you have 75 people who all have to get laundry done, and usually not just, I mean, it's some smelly laundry because it's been rode hard and put away wet, literally, by some of these people. Now again, there will be separate laundry facilities for the costume people to launder the clothes and the costumes that are in the show. And sometimes if you're working wardrobe or know somebody who's working wardrobe or your roommate is working wardrobe, sometimes it's worth spending a day helping the wardrobe people wash the clothes for the show, because you can stick a couple of loads of laundry in and nobody will know. And in that event, it's free, because those machines don't have the little coin or anything on it. There will typically be a bus or some way that the theater will provide once or twice a week to take everyone into town to shop at a grocery store, to pick up goods. Again, they're going to typically have some sort of room to feed you in. It isn't necessarily a kitchen, but that's the reason I hesitated by saying room to feed you in. Sometimes it's where Mater is stored, so you get to have lunch with Mater. But again, you know, the more advanced, the ones that have been around longer, Tecumseh, they have a very nice lunch facility. Again, there's a lot of outdoor seating, but there's some indoor in case it's raining. But they have a very nice kitchen staff, and they actually have a menu that's different every day. Some of the places that have been around less long or maybe less well-to-do, you know, it's peanut butter and jelly, which maybe not that bad, but there's not a lot of time and money spent on feeding you. And so having, you know, cornflakes for breakfast is your choice. You can either have them or not have them, but you're not gonna have a continental spread. But again, you can bring your own food and your own supplies, that sort of thing, to the places. Some places have facilities that you can cook in your room, some don't. Again, questions to ask when you're discussing contract. So just so you know, feeding yourself is, again, because you're not, I mean, there's not a lot of McDonald's and Wendy's and things that you can run to. Feeding yourself is going to be an issue that you have to deal with in an outdoor situation, yes? So again, these are the type of things, in addition to just doing the show, Then you got the show to run, then you got your half-hour calls, then you got your cues to call, your shifts to execute. You got to do the show, but just living in the outdoor theater environment it can be a challenge to people, and especially if you're somebody who is allergic to things like pine straw. That's what's on top of mountains. Pine trees are just in nature. And so if you're somebody who's hyper allergic to things, outdoor drama may not be your calling. I'm just warning you. Benadryl is a great thing, but you don't want to have to necessarily live on Benadryl for 3 months. That's, at some point, you're going to get caught without your Benadryl, yes? So just be wary. Let's talk about summer stock. Again, here's a little video giving you a very apt description of summer stock companies. This is a small company in Allenbury, Pennsylvania. Here you go. Again, just with outdoor drama, there are different sizes and shapes of theaters, but one of the things that happens in the Northeast especially, these people have been in the winter, and again, being from Alabama, we have a day or two of winter, but we still do, Alabama Shakespeare Festival still can have shows in the winter. In the Northeast, not so much. These people have been inside for 6 months and want to get out and go see things and do things. And so there are a lot of these summer stock companies that will arise, again, in small communities. Williamstown is in a very large community, so some of them are very large. Some of them are full equity. Williamstown Festival in Massachusetts typically has Broadway designers and Broadway actors in their shows, so they're very well funded. West Virginia Public Theater, where I worked for God numbers of years, was all equity. Well, not all equity, but they had, I would say, 15 equity members per show. So that was great because you had all the equity rules to help you. But the theater itself had a 50-foot wide proscenium that you could design for, and had 33,000 seats, that sort of thing. Again, the theater that you just saw the video on, mom and pop thing that was started 50 years ago when everybody came home from the Second World War. So it's a wide variety of summer stock companies, but usually they tend to do musicals. Usually they tend to have a 1 or 2 week rehearsal period and a 1 or 2 week run of the show. And again, you have to plan and rehearse one show during the day and then perform or produce a second show in the evening. If you're lucky, there's 2 sets of stage management groups, one that can be in rehearsal during the day and another that calls the show at night. But I'm gonna tell you, at Allenbury, it's the same group. The same group calls the show, rehearses the show in the day and calls the show at night. So again, it's one of those things where it may be 80, 90 hour weeks. And one of the things, they're gonna pay you what's called a stipend. It is happening less and less nowadays because OSHA is clamping down on that type of activity. But still, you're probably gonna work many more hours in a week than you're probably gonna get actually paid for. It's gonna be some sort of salary that, again, if you stick to the exact number of hours that you're getting paid, you're gonna find a lot of work that falls through the cracks and doesn't get done, and will be frowned upon by somebody in the process. Again, because it's coming fast and furious, you have a week of rehearsals. Typically, cast members will have done the show dozens, 20, 30 times. Tevye, and if you're doing Fiddler on the Roof, Tevye's been doing it for 20 years. Again, these people come in knowing the show. They don't need to be taught how to sing the songs of the show. Now, the choreography for the chorus probably is going to be new and unique. And so those people are going to have separate rehearsals that they're actually teaching movements to those people. But typically, the people who are the leads in the shows have been doing the show for quite a long number of years. Doing Hello Dolly has done the show before. Trust me, if you're doing summer stock, you only got a week to learn the show. There's just not many people can learn a show in a week. You can know a show in a week, and then just add the changes that are particular to that show. But again, as a stage manager, you may be behind. You may be the farthest behind, simply because everybody else knows the show and you're just learning the show. In all things, don't make it personal. People, again, they're under these are high pressure situations, and people are just going to blurt out answers, and we'll just say, to keep it polite, we'll say it's rude behavior. It's nothing personal. People need to get things done and do it quickly, and they don't need people to ask questions. Go get me X. They don't know. If they knew where X was, they would have gotten it themselves. So don't say, where is X? Find X, get out there and do it. It may not be convenient, but again, the more you plan ahead, the better things will come off. As Cody likes to hear me say, it's water off a duck's back. Nothing personal, baby. Just let it roll right off you, roll with the punches and go. Yes, because again, 5 minutes later, they're gonna need you. So, and 5 minutes later, you're gonna need them. Whenever the problem arises, instead of placing blame, focus on the solution. Yes, you can figure out what went wrong later, but when the problem arises, if the wagon's not rolling, what can we do to solve the problem? Obviously cut the wagon. If we need the pieces on the stage that are on the wagon, then we can just carry out a bed or a table or something that is part of the show that we can't do the show without. If you can do the show without it, it's just not, tonight we're not having a wagon. They're quick calls, they're emergency calls. Safety is paramount, again. But again, the audience doesn't know what's supposed to happen. So they don't necessarily know that they're missing something unless people start yelling and screaming, oh my God, we don't have the wagon. And then suddenly everybody goes, oh, well, I guess there was missing a wagon. Yes. So proceed, right? Find out what the quickest solution is, perform what you can. You leave it for the post-show report to find out how to fix it necessarily, okay? Again, there's a big difference in summer stock between professional companies and amateur companies. The video I showed you was of an amateur company, and again, because you don't have equity rules, those people can sew costumes and do all those things during the day, and then perform at night and also have rehearsals. That's a lot of hours a week. But again, they tend to be young high school and or college students who have a lot of energy, Lord love them. Yes? All right, festivals. Again, here's a little information about the Edinburgh Festival, just as an example of a great festival out there, if you've never heard of it.
As a whole, it's just one of the most amazing things I've ever seen.
The great playground of the imagination.
Like a massive fun house.
You feel like you've arrived.
This is 70 years on the Edinburgh Festival Fringe.
70!
It's just so breathtaking.
So many talented performers in one place.
It's one of the most important melting pots for ideas in the world.
You get to see some of the most exciting and thrilling performances.
You can get anything. You can go see anything.
You've got circus, you've got dance, you've got cabaret.
Comedians, actors, buskers.
From a serious drama to juggling to a clown act to a naked drag queen.
Any conceivable thing is worth a try.
They cater for every taste.
It's the roulette of let's go in and we don't know what it's about, but let's just go and watch it.
And if it's good, people will see it.
70th anniversary. What an amazing event.
You really couldn't have found a city with a more exciting vibe.
There's just such a buzz about the place. You're meeting people from all over the world every day.
You can't fail to be swept up with the atmosphere.
It is kind of magnetic.
I've never seen so many venues in my life.
Even in telephone boxes, in the back of cabs, people are putting on shows.
It's wonderful. You never know what you're going to see.
For a comedian, the Fringe is like Christmas. We plan our entire year around it.
I just find the whole thing so bloody exciting.
I want to do the Fringe every year for the rest of my life.
It's bigger and better and more international than any other festival.
I enjoy it so much. It's the only time in my life I've actually met the general public.
This was and continues to be the great granddaddy.
This is the biggest arts festival out there.
And it's a joy to be part of it. I just love it.
I'd like to take this opportunity to wish the Edinburgh Fringe a very happy anniversary.
Happy 70th anniversary, Edinburgh Fringe.
You did it!
Well done. You're brilliant.
Happy anniversary to the Fringe.
Hip hip hooray!
Place to discover, place to be discovered, can't be beaten anywhere.
Happy 70th Edinburgh Fringe. I love you.
You're 70, which is 70 is really like the new 35.
You've never been creaky, but you've always been freaky.
Hopefully there's many more to come.
Congratulations on the timeless wonderment that is the Edinburgh Fringe.
Edinburgh Festival Fringe, I love you. Long may you go forward.
the Edinburgh festivals and most festivals will occupy some sort of city for a couple weeks. Typically they are outdoor, indoor, every bar has some sort of performance going on. There's music, there's comedy, there's plays, there's community theater performances, there's professional theater performances. These festival events are just everybody coming together, flocking together. There's one in South Carolina I know of, there's one in Texas I know of. They're just for 2 weeks in the middle of August, and they're typically always in August. You'll have these summer festivals, and as a stage manager, there's a lot of work because logistics is what it's all about. And the biggest curve you're gonna, again, once you get to the show is the show. Calling the cues is calling the cues. But the biggest curve because the venues are so tightly packed, a lot of times in festivals, you'll have the audience, let's say you have a theater that seats 100 people, and you're doing a show and it's got 75% capacity, 75 people watching it. And the show starts at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and is over at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. The next show is gonna start at 5:30. Yes, and so in the lobby, you got the next 100 people waiting to come into your theater while you got 100 people watching the show. Trust me, timing between the shows is paramount. You're not gonna have a lot of set. You're gonna have some prop pieces. You may have a bucket that everything goes in and just run. You may have a cart or two, but even those take too much time. And people in costumes grab their props and go. That's the shows, yes? Even the main stage shows are designed to get out because people are coming in, yes? And it may be that while one scene change is going on upstage of a Grand Drape, you may have a comedian performing, and that audience is paid to just see that part. So you may have 50 people just watching a comedian, even though the theater may seat 300, because they're the people that paid the $50 to see the comedian. The comedian does an hour while you're setting up the next show. Then you got to get those 50 people out of there so you get the next 300 people in to see the show. So again, coordination, working with your house manager, which again we'll talk about in a couple of weeks, but coordination with house management, logistics, getting people ready. If show's late, shows get canceled right and left. But because things are tightly scheduled, it's hard to replace it. If you can't make it on time or somebody's sick, the show just isn't a part of the festival that year, yes? And so again, not only do you have stage managers that have to call the show, but production managers that deal with the space itself. Those type of jobs are out there, and they need people that can be trusted for that 2 weeks. Again, it pays great for 2 weeks, and you work you work to death for those 2 weeks. But once it's over, you still have, generally there's some planning, 2-3 months out, you'll have several production managers come on call to start coordinating events and people and all that sort of stuff. And there'll generally be a person or two that is part of the festival for the whole year. But again, as you get closer and closer, you're hiring more and more people. So again, if you're used to or accustomed to or want to be a part of that crazy environment, it pays very well because those things are very well attended. They make a lot of money. And the community supports it because, of course, all those people that come to see the shows have to eat something and buy touristy things and live in hotel rooms and all that sort of stuff. So a lot of times the community will support the theater festival, where in most places the theater isn't necessarily something that the local community would get their act behind. But again, in August, we don't have no July 4th, no holiday, nothing else going on. A couple weeks in August, you can bring in a couple thousand people to stay in our hotels. Absolutely, we'll give some money to a theater program to do that, yes? So again, just a different type of situation. Once you get into it, same type of thing, right? All right, last thing we're gonna talk about today is competitions. Yes, there tend to be a competition in theater. First of all, it's sort of crazy to think that there are people that are out there winning, awards for theater, because any two theater pieces could never be more dissimilar. Now, it'd be one thing if every theater company did the exact same show and you guys say, well, this is the best production of this show. But that doesn't happen. You have every theater company's got their own show, their own statement, their own story they're telling. And then to pick somebody who might be the best actor or the best production or the best sets, it is splitting hairs. Trust me, it is one person's opinion. So again, if you're somebody who's involved in a competition, and if you advance, be thankful to the Lord above that whoever was your judge enjoyed your performance. But if you don't advance, take it with a grain of salt, because there are people out there that just, especially judges that have agendas, yes, that will, whatever the agenda may be. And they just may not like you because they don't like brown-haired short people. Just to pick on Cody's one. All right, but again, the purpose is to get people involved in the theater. Again, at AUM, we participate in the American College Theater Festival. We also encourage our students to go to SETC to audition there, and also USITT if it's regional and all that sort of stuff. All those are ways of getting people to meet people, to network with people, to get hired, to know about jobs, that sort of thing. So there are great reasons to go to these competitions. The first type of festival I'm going to say is a high school festival. We'll just start with high school festivals. The high school festival, again, in Alabama, the Trumbauer Festival is what it's called. In Texas, it's called the UIL competition. Every state's got some version of a high school theater competition. Typically, a high school theater competition, you'll have you'll have competitions that are like monologue things and with forensics and all that sort of stuff. But theater competitions, when it gets down to producing plays, they tend to be a 45-minute play version of the play. Now, what that means is that you have typically 45 minutes to do the show. And in a lot of cases, because you want to try and not rely on judges as much as you can. And so if you can have somebody who doesn't follow the rules and can be eliminated, then they haven't had to lose because a judge said they weren't as good, if that makes any sense. So if it's called a 45-minute play competition, trust me, there's a rule that says the play can be no longer than 45 minutes. And if your play is 45 minutes and 1 second, you have not followed the rule, and therefore you are not eligible to win the contest. I know that sounds crazy, but trust me, these people are looking for any rule violation they can find. If the deadline to apply is January 15th, and your application is not received by January 15th, guess what? You're not in the festival, because then that way they don't have to judge you. Okay, they're looking for anybody to break any rule that they have. Sometimes there's a limit on cast size. They'll say no more than 20 people in cast. Sometimes there's a limit on orchestra size, no more than 10 people in the orchestra, whatever their size, no more than 5 people in the crew, whatever the rules are. Again, you break the rule, fine, they'll let you do the show, but you're not gonna win because you broke the rule, yes? So, they're gonna take your money, your fee, your $500 entrance fee, that's gone. The fact that you went 45 minutes and 1 second, it's not their problem. That's your problem, because you should have limited the show to less than 45 minutes. Now, the other part of this equation, because they're gonna have a show every hour at these high school competitions, and generally what they will have is a square, let's say a 10-foot by 10-foot square, taped off in white gaff tape. And some places it's every actor and crew member and thing that you're gonna use has to be in that square at the beginning of your hour, and then everything has to be back in that square an hour later in order to say end. And then again, there are gonna be people with stopwatches all over the place, timing everything, yes? And so you have to have within the 10 minutes, let's say, to set things up, 45 minutes to do your show, and 5 minutes to put it all back in that square, including the people. Some places it's just the stuff. And a lot of places they'll say, all right, we're gonna provide a staircase, a platform, a bed, a door, and a window, and 2 chairs. Use those or not use those. Some places say you can't use anything else. Some people say you have these items that you can use, and you can bring in anything else you need to augment your show. Again, it's the rules of the theater, it's the rules of the high school that you're participating in, and trust me, those change annually, depending on who the president is and what their agenda is, yes? But again, typically you'll have that hour to set up the stage. Again, the curtain is usually up where the audience can watch you set up the stage. And again, if you have any kind of light cues you need to check, you have to do it within that 10 minutes to set up. Then you perform the show 45 minutes and then strike everything in the last 5. Everybody and everything back in that square, okay? Again, there are gonna be awards generally for best actor, best actress, most comedic, most best supporting actor, best show, best featured actor, best featured actress. Those are the type of awards that are given in those type of situations And again, it's, one of the reasons for the hour limit on, or 45-minute limit on shows, is that if you get there Friday at 6 o'clock, you can have a show at 6, a show at 7, a show at 8, and a show at 9. You can have 4 shows that day. And then the next day you can have 8 shows, right? So that's 12. And the next day, Sunday, you get 3 shows. So you get 15, 16 shows in the course of a weekend. And that's just a whole lot of theater. Now, a lot of these places, in addition to the shows to go see, which is what most people are there to do and why the competition is there, a lot of times they will also have training sessions on how to draw or how to juggle or things like that. So there will be other programming that sometimes is available, sometimes not. Sometimes it's just people going to see the shows and everybody goes to see everybody's shows and you see everybody and learn what they did right and what you did wrong and all that sort of stuff by watching the shows. But that's the high school drama competition usually. In American College Theater Festival, there are 2 types of shows that you can perform for a competition. One is an associate entry where you are just doing the show and your actors and your designers can be nominated for regional awards, but the show can't progress to the regional festival. The other is to be a participating entry where you do the show and have the adjudicators come, and then you also then take the show to the regional performance, which, again, the regional headquarters changes, and again, matter of fact, in 2022, the Montgomery, AUM, and Troy State are going to co-sponsor the American College Theater Festival in that particular year, so it'll be easy to get there because we're here. But the first competition, generally the associate entry will have 1 judge to come on a single night, and then after the show they will give a response, and the response they will sort of tell you what they liked or what they didn't like. If you're lucky, they will spotlight you or your performance. My history has suggested that if they don't mention you right off the bat, it's probably best not to ask what about me, because if they don't mention you, it's probably they don't not mention things they like. And so a lot of times what you're going to hear is what about me is not going to be the most pleasing thing you may have heard in your life about your performance. Now, you don't know unless you ask. So that's the risk you run. If you say, what about me, prepared to hear bad, and suddenly you hear good, great. Because sometimes you do, things fall through the crack in the course of an hour response. But again, that judges come to the theater and you're actually just watching a performance, so there's nothing different in the performance than any other night. Doesn't matter what night they come opening, they come closing, they come during the run. After the show, you have an adjudication, yes? That's one type of, so you got the 45-minute play competition. You have the type of competition where the judges come to you. Then the third type is where you take the show to the festival or to the event. And again, that requires the set to be able to break apart, to tour, to have things to roll costumes in, to store and transport props, any kind of special lighting equipment you may need. You got to have your light cues adjustable to the space, so you have to have time to focus and gel lights in the new space that you're going to. So again, you're going to have some sort of setup time. Again, at the American College Theater Festival, it tends to be 4 hours. They'll open the doors at 8 a.m. You have until noon to set up. Then at 2 o'clock, there's the show because you have lunch, and then you have a half hour. And you'll have a show at 1:30 to 2 o'clock. Again, assuming the show's 2 hours, you're through at 3:30 and 4 o'clock. The next show sets up till 8, then you have the show that evening. So again, you have some period of time to set up, around 4 hours. It could be less, depending on where you are, or maybe you get there at 5 in the morning as opposed to at 8, in order to fit things into the day. During that time period, generally you want to have an hour or so to set up the set, an hour or so to set up the lights, an hour or so to adjust the staging to the play and adjust the lighting and all that sort of stuff, and then an hour of what I call slop, just in case you need a little bit more time here or a little bit more time there, just as a rule of thumb. Again, as a stage manager, making sure that people are aware of where we are in the process is your job, yes? Letting people know and having a plan before you walk in. Say the door's gonna open, the first thing off the truck, typically costumes, which go right straight back to the dressing rooms, so they're out of the way and you don't have to go around and through all the other stuff. If you have flying scenery, maybe that's next. If you have lighting that needs to be done and designed and done, whatever flies in and out goes next, and then whatever's on the ground typically is last thing to be installed. and vice versa on the way back. So take the set down, bring the flies in, put the costumes in last, because of course they're going to have people in the costumes, with the actors who are in the dress rooms getting them ready. So again, having sort of plan, the show itself is the show, but having some sort of plan for an organization to have the show move into a space and out of a space is the biggest difference between those type of things. Again, the award you're typically going to get, well, first of all, you're going to get, there's a possibility to win a golden hard hat for best move transition or best in and out of those shows. But then again, you're going to have best performance, best actor, best actress, best show, all those sort of things, which can then go to National Festival in DC. Now, a couple of years ago, they used to have performances at the National Festival, and it got the funding was sort of deleted. So now anybody that wins a regional is invited to DC and is just considered a winner. So if you win a regional festival for us, then you get to, as a designer or a technician or an actor, you just won. Yes, then you get to go to DC and participate there. The fourth type of festival is what I'm gonna call 10-minute play festival or scene work. They're shorter, they're a lot more crammed in. A lot of times you'll have several rooms where those things are going on at the same time. So you may have 4 different rooms with 4 different judges, and you do 10 of those in each room. And a lot of times, again, you may not be the best show altogether, but you may be the best show in that room. Or the room you're in may have 10 great shows. You may be the 10th best show in the festival and not make it out of your room because you had the 9 best plays right in front of you, and only 2 of them get advanced. And so you had the shows 3 through 10, the best shows of the festival didn't get advanced, and so the 11th best show may wind up being 3rd place. But again, that's the risk you take. There's generally no way to see any or all of that because it's just in and out very quickly. Again, at those type of festivals, which again tend to be at SCTC, but there are other places as well. You're definitely going to have some other events like juggling and programming and whatever type of activities you got going on there. Again, once the show started, maybe the show is the show. Let me just, some of the rules to watch out for. Because again, the competitions especially are big on the rules. Who's eligible to compete? Yes? If you are currently a student in the semester, you are in the show, and it's the fall, and the show is being done in the spring, sometimes they won't allow a person who's not currently enrolled in the university to win an award. So why go and perform if you aren't eligible for the award? So make sure you're eligible for the award. What type of play is acceptable? A lot of authors, for instance, Neil Simon, doesn't allow his plays to be cut to 45 minutes. And so these people will have a list of shows that cannot be done, and you have to get permission, and you also have to pay royalties to do your shows. How the company needs to be assembled, we talked about the possibility of having more or less crew members or less actors and that sort of stuff than they need. How the evaluations will be made. Sometimes the adjudicator will just send you their response a couple weeks later. Sometimes it's an immediate response. Sometimes it's the next day. Sometimes you do the show at night, you get the 10 o'clock call, and they respond that day. So where will the evaluation be? Who will incur the costs? That's a big one. And that's why a lot of people don't participate in SCTC or ACTF, because in order to take a company of, let's say, 25 people to a venue that is going to be a couple hundred miles away with your rider truck may cost you $10,000, and the university you work at may have $10,000. And so they can send those several actors who may have been nominated and pay for their food and their housing for that weekend, that sort of thing. So again, how much is it going to cost, who's going to pay for it? And then deadlines. Make sure you get things submitted by the deadline, because that is a big one as far as making sure that you're eligible for the competition. Again, once you get in any of these environments, once you get to the show, everything we talked about for the first 2 months here, it applies. But each of these has their own separate and unique opportunities, and just thought I'd take a day to just sort of share, a lot of these are apocryphal little stories, but there are things you're going to come in contact with, and I feel like it's better to spend a little day talking about them so you're not completely blindsided when you sign up for Tweetsy and have to go out and mow the lawn. Cool.
Or build graves.
All right, we'll see you next time. Thanks.